Well, you hear the reports of like you being thrown like 80 feet in the air from that car. And a lot of people say because you weren't wearing your seatbelt that night, it probably saved your life, that you might have died had you had your seatbelt on, only because of the way the car flipped over and things of that nature. Um, when you look back on that, the biggest lesson that you took from that and from that night and that whole experience?
The big lesson I took from the night is, basically, don't take things for granted. And listen to your parents too. Cause my mom, for some reason, my mom would call me that night. She had told me, and my dad told me too. My mom was calling me that night too, and just, asked me what I'm doing and things like that. Just said she was worried about me, things like that. And actually, a dude had walked up to me and said that his dad had prayed for me that night too. Had like prayed for me and blessed me that night or whatever, things like that. So it just, I think, don't take things for granted. I think, at that time I was taking a lot of things for granted and, slacking on my training and, basically not as focused as, as I used to be and stuff like that. So, for me, it was just, get back on the ball. Am I going to heed that warning? Because I mean, that was a warning. Because that should have been fatal. And for me, even when I was in the hospital, things like that, I said, sorry to my kids and stuff like that, because I would leave them out here to fend for themselves, and now we took it for this world. A lot of people, would feel that, like my mother, my father, and my kids, and my sibling and stuff like that. So for me, it was like, are you gonna heed this warning? So it's definitely a warning or a sign that you need to get back on your stuff and get back focused and focus on the stuff that got you to the point that you are now, or you gonna keep on doing the stuff that you're doing. So so I listened and, got back in the gym, got back training, and, got back to the fundamental things that, got me to where I'm in now as a unified champion. That's just staying focused, staying dedicated, listening to my parents, and being around my kids and being around people who, truly love me and truly care for me.
Yeah, it's a great lesson. Do you think you got somewhat complacent once you became the unified champ? I think a lot of people, for example, when Keith Thurman became the unified champ, a lot of people say, I don't see the hunger there anymore. You kind of see maybe the road that he kind of went down, because once you become unified, you're the man, so to speak, at the top.
No, not really, because me, I wanted to fight it. I still wanted to fight everybody. Like, it didn't matter. I think I got kind of complacent in how I always trained hard. Like, I always trained hard. I always, was focused once training camp arrived. But outside of training camp, I wasn't, as focused as I should have been, or I get too high up in weight. And then the training camp come around, I got to run 2 times a day and always training in a sauna suit and working on a sauna suit. Or I didn't want to fight around this time because, this time is cold time. It might be winter time. It's not going to make me lose weight as far as running in the summertime or, around July or August and things like that. So, for me, it was just staying focused outside the gym, outside the training camp, and outside when I don't have fights, and on a downtime, just staying focused, staying hungry, and making sure I'm more disciplined now, and as far as my regimen and what I eat and things like that. So a lot of young guys don't realize that. You got that hunger when you're young. You want to make this, you want to make a lot of money. You want to win the titles and you want to do stuff like that. And then once you get to that point, you kind of veer off a little bit, and something might tell you to get back on the road. You tripping. But that's why Floyd's so great, and that's why Michael Jordan's so great, and that's why Kobe Bryant's so great, because it's that focus.
Yeah,
Focus and that determination.
yeah, that discipline. You know,
Yeah.
there was a lot of people who would talk to me and say, "I love Errol Spence as a fighter, as a person, but I see him around Adrian Broner, I see him around Gervonta Davis," and I always say, "Hey, look, you know, Tank is a great young man, sometimes misunderstood, but he's had his missteps outside the ring, and obviously, you know, there's a litany of things you can go on with Adrian."
Yeah.
But at the core, a nice guy. But they were like, why is he around those guys? It's going to lead him down a wrong path. I'm sure you've heard that too. How do you, now that you've made that change, is there things that you talk to them about? Hey, look, maybe we need to change about some of the things that we do outside of the ring.
Oh, I mean, it's something that me and Adrian talk about a lot. You know, it's something me and Adrian talk about a lot. But you know, it's basically, you know, I'm a grown man, and you know, I can hang around. You know, anybody want to hang around. I just gotta, you know, it's on me. I take care of myself, and I gotta be focused on myself and make sure, you know, I don't do the wrong things, or I don't do this, I don't do that, because you know, it could mess me up in the long run, or when I go to training camp and stuff like that. So, you know, as far as anybody else, you know, of course they're my friends. I can tell them, you know, oh, we need to do this, or you need to do that, or you need to get back training, or you need to get more focus and things like that. I can tell them that, but it's more of a, you know, of a personal thing that you just got to do. And as for me, I got into that mode where, you know, I wasn't fighting for like 7 or 8 months, and you know, I take a lot of time off. And then when you got money, you're not doing nothing, and you know, you don't have people, you know, telling you the right things. You know, you kind of veer off a little bit and, you know, get on focus. But you know, I'm happy I got that wake up call. You know, I'm mad it had to happen like that. But as far as, you know, I feel great. I feel 100%. I feel good. I feel focused. I feel like it was a wake up call, because I mean, I could have easily, you know, lost my life.
We unpack. We unpack. We unpack. Coming to you live, Boxingego unpack. Yeah. We unpack. We unpack. We unpack. Coming to you live. Errol Spence Jr. talks about veering off from the ultimate goals, and also the struggles of fame, and also what he's learned since his accident. What up, Fight World? It's your boy Ego, and I'm back with some more boxing. Make sure you smash the like button. Also subscribe to the channel for the latest and greatest in boxing. If you want to become part of the gang, notification gang, please hit the bell icon. Shout out to the super chats, channel donations, the Venmo donations, the Cash App, and the Patreon family. We working. Head over to Patreon right now. I got some stuff cooking. Patreon. You can also hit the join button beneath this video, right next to the subscribe button. I got some stuff shifting over to that side, and you know, we're going to just build that up. Another great way to support the channel is click the link in the description. ESPN Plus, tons of original content, docu-series, documentaries, 30 for 30, classic fights, archive fights from the UFC, also boxing. You can get ESPN Plus app as a standalone, or you can bundle it. ESPN Plus, Hulu, and Disney Plus, all 3 apps for one price, and that's $12.99 a month. Now, Errol Spence, he did an interview. You guys heard a piece of it with Brian Custer. The link is in the description in case you want to hear the whole interview. I think it's like an hour long in its entirety. Shout out to Brian Custer. I will say I've always liked Brian Custer. You know, I've had a chance to interview him in the past and stuff. Actually, it was for an Errol Spence fight. You know, it was that Errol Spence versus Ocampo. And, you know, he's a good dude. And from what I know, from what I've seen. And I like he's very eloquent. He's just a good commentator. But he got some good stuff out of Errol Spence. You know, it was just them two doing some type of Skype or whatever it was. And again, you guys could watch it and give him the views as well for the actual interview. This is just my take on what I was hearing. Errol Spence, he was talking about kind of the dangers of fame, and he basically said more of what he said on the Showtime All the Smoke podcast with Steven Jackson and Matt Barnes, but it was a different interview, so he kind of touched on some other things, and I think that was good. He basically said that he veered off course, kind of feeling himself. You know, he became a unified champion, and the mistakes that he believed he made were ultimately things where he wasn't training like he was supposed to be training. So he basically elaborated by saying that he always trains hard in training camp, but it sounds like he didn't do himself any services or any favors on how he would enter the training camps. It seems like that was the biggest issue. He was merely saying that he trains hard, he trains like a dog, he trains serious, and he focuses in and, you know, hones in. But when his off season was around, he said there'd be times 6-7 months where he didn't have a fight. It was those moments where he feels he could have did something different. He says those moments where he was, you know, kind of eating, let his weight get up. And he said this in the past. He said his weight shot up to like 190, and he's a welterweight, 147. So he said just basically discipline in those areas. And he said he was having to run in the sauna suit and run 2 times a day. So he's basically almost doing double the work if you think about it. Instead of, and I've always told you guys this on my channel, it's when fighters don't manage their weight in their off season, they're already a couple steps back. It's like some people are proactive and reactive. And then when you don't come into camp disciplined and at anywhere near where you're supposed to be, then you're already a couple steps back. So, you know, you really are being more reactive. Like, okay, it's go time. My promotional team, my handlers, my advisor, my promoter says I got to fight. All right, let's get it. And then you have to get into camp mode and start watching what you eat and stuff like that. But the downside to that is, again, it's always better to be proactive. Like, for example, just think about saving money. If you take a little bit of money out of your paycheck, let's say $50 out of your paycheck, and put it in the savings account, and each and every time you save for a rainy day and you save that money instead of just putting it with the rest of your money in your checking account, then when you have a situation where, let's say, you need new tires, your tire pop, and then they got to replace all of them, you know, because replacing one won't work. You know, some trucks and stuff like that, it'll be, you can't do different brands and stuff. It'll be unleveled. So you might have to replace all 4. So how you going to come up with that? Now you have to just react. You got a nail in your tire pop, whatever the situation is. And now you're forced to react with the situation. Like, hey, man, I got to get to work every day. So now you got to come out of pocket. But if you had that savings and you prepared for anything unexpected and you took the $40, $50 out of your check for the last year or two, it's not going to hit you as hard because, yeah, you don't want to deplete your savings or have to use that money, but at least it's separate to what you're regularly expecting. So you guys could see it's always going to be easier to be proactive as opposed to reactive. Proactive means you're waiting for it, you're anticipating it, and you're planning for it. So that's the same thing with these fighters. Don't wait till you get the call and then, you know, start training. You should almost, since you're a pro athlete, just be ready. Stay ready so you don't have to get ready. It's better to keep up than to catch up, you know, and keep that type of mentality. I think you'll be better off. And it sounds like Errol Spence realizes that. He also credited guys like Kobe Bryant, Michael Jordan, and boxer Floyd Mayweather. He says it's just a different level of elite level discipline. So he says before the accident, you know, he's kind of living a fast life and he took things for granted. He says he learned not to take things for granted. He also says, and this was like, you know, kind of deep. He says that after the accident, he said he apologized to his daughters. And I was like, man, that's crazy. He said he apologized to them because he's potentially, you know, the position he was in with that accident, he said it could have been fatal. So I would have left them to grow up in a world without their dad, you know, and a lot of people count on me. I have siblings, my parents, my close friends, fans, you know, I would have left a lot of people behind. So he says it was a warning, you know, kind of like an omen, and he's planning on correcting those things. And he said it was just basically a real wake-up call, which is what obviously you would expect. I think Errol's a smart person, but he's very candid about what happened. You know, I didn't know how this would be, because Brian Kenny, how do I say it? Brian Kenny, when he did the Errol Spence first interview, for some odd reason, Fox gave it to Brian Kenny, and he was like interrogating him like he was Bill Duke in Menace. And I thought that was kind of weird. And it's just some people connect with you better, and they can do a better interview and get more out of the person. So I noticed the Up in Smoke podcast and Brian Custer both produced far greater and better Errol Spence Jr. interviews than that Brian Kenny one. When Brian Kenny spoke to him, his speech sounded a little bit different, and the questions being asked weren't good. Like these recent podcast style ones with Brian Custer, shout out to him, and Matt Barnes and Steven Jackson, they're quaint and they're good stuff, and they got good responses from Errol Spence, which is, you know, what you would, I imagine, want for ratings and views and just to be informative for the fans. So I think Errol Spence, he's on the right track with his line of thinking. Listen, everybody makes mistakes. Errol Spence sounds regretful. I think this is a great thing that he went through. Not that he went through a tragic accident, but I think it's a great thing if you listen to how he's talking, because it sounds like he sounds like a humble man. Like he sounds like an intelligent man, where he's seen the error in some of his ways. Not saying he was doing everything wrong, but it seems like he's able to do some personal thinking. You know, he had some me time or whatever, and he's determined and decided what he was doing that was working versus what wasn't working. And him crediting Kobe Bryant, Michael Jordan, and Floyd Mayweather with their level of discipline, him saying he's going to keep his weight down, him saying that it was selfish or he had to apologize to his daughter. These are all good signs, because in this interview he also says that he was asked a question about, some fans have questions that, why are you hanging out with Errol Spence? I mean, why are you hanging out with Adrian Broner and Gervonta Tank Davis? They've had issues or troubles or whatever. And what he said was good. He said, I'm a grown man, so I'll hang out who I want. That's not really the issue. I'm a grown man. I can take care of myself, and I got to be accountable for myself. So he said, going through this, you know, I can't blame anybody. I got to make the decisions that best impact my career. And, you know, he's learning through that process. But I really like what Errol Spence is saying, because it shows that he's human, and it also shows that he's learning. If Errol Spence came up and he was like acting like it was other people's fault and blaming everybody and didn't sound like this, then that would be a cause of concern. Like, basically, if you were in denial, if Errol Spence was sounding like he was in denial, and like I said, he was trying to pass the buck on somebody else and he didn't see anything that he did was wrong, then that would be bad, because then you're liable to do it again or worse or whatever. You know what I'm saying? You might do whatever. But he sounded very humble and very serious. And another good question from Brian Kenny, he said something like, do you think it was because you became unified, you became a little bit complacent? Some people thought that Keith Thurman lost his hunger, and he kind of laughed, because I could tell it sounded like he was thinking like, man, don't compare me to no Keith Thurman. He was like, nah, it wasn't that. I didn't lose my hunger because I still wanted to fight everybody. He said, again, he became complacent in his off season, eating what he wanted, letting his weight get up, you know, partying, going out, you know, whatever he was doing. So good interview, good stuff from Errol Spence. Like I said, we're all human. I like the fact that Errol Spence is owning up to what he's done, and he sounds like he's gained knowledge from going through it. And I mean, that's what you would expect and what you would hope. However, some people are thick, There are a lot of people that are thick. Like they go to jail, get out, and then they do something to put them right back in jail. I know people like that. You see what I'm saying? And then they get out and then they get right back in jail. So for some people, it's very hard to break the cycle. Now, another thing Errol Spence said that was very interesting was he talked about sometimes you don't know in this fame game, everything comes quick. You don't know what women want, if they're gold diggers. Sometimes you have to screen it different. You don't know if people want you for you, guys or girls, friends. You don't know what people's intentions are. So it sounds like he's trying to get better with all that, the evils that come with fame. It's like Biggie Small said, it's like Puff saying, more money, more problems. You get the fame, and then you got to deal with everything that comes with it. So it sounds like Errol Spence, from this interview, hopefully he's staying true to himself and to his word. He just sounds like he's going to get more disciplined how he was. See, and again, this sounds realistic because I don't know about you. I feel like I could relate. I could relate in the sense, like, I never went through the accident and all that he did, but I could relate in the sense of there's been times in life where I got to slow down and check myself, and say, okay, the way you moving too fast. Or even let's say, even as a YouTuber, there's been times and periods and timepieces where I worked a certain way and had a certain system and I didn't derive. I was just like a robot, like you boom, 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 pumping out the content, boom, 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 doing what, or go cover a fight and boom, boom, boom. And then there'll be times where I get bigger and bigger on the channel, making more money and stuff like that. And then I go to cover a fight and then somebody phones you and say, hey, we all going to get something to eat, boom, 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 knowing I have uploads. The old me, I would decline to go out and eat in Vegas if my work wasn't done. But then there were times where, you do get complacent in those regards and you're like, damn, and you go out knowing you haven't finished, which you're better off saying, hey, I'll meet y'all up there. I got some stuff to finish. But there's times where I didn't do that. And I think about like, damn, I never used to do this. I never did the fun stuff and I was always disciplined until my work was done. So sometimes you need that foot up your ass. Sometimes you have to do that self-reflection and see what you're doing right or wrong. So I can feel Errol Spence. And the best thing I like about it is talking like this. It makes it sound like it's an honest self-assessment of where you're at, and you're not sugarcoating it, and you're being genuine and true. At the end of the day, as a man or a woman, you got to be able to look at that man or woman in the mirror. Look at that man in the mirror, look at that woman in the mirror. And that's what it sounds like Errol Spence has done. He's had some time to think about it and reflect, see the people he potentially could have hurt if he was no longer here, see how he was moving, see what he did in the Algeria fight or this fight earlier in his career before he became champion, before he got the same paychecks, whatever, before he sold AT&T Stadium out with Mikey Garcia. And it sounds like he's noticed a shift, and that's what he's saying. He veered off a bit, but he's looking to get back on track. So respects to him for that. Link in the description. Check it. Very candid, very honest, very, like I said, it's a cozy type of interview. He wasn't all turned up or anything. And sometimes these are good interviews. Like, there's a lot of personalities in combat sports that are like turned up, and like, cracking jokes and stuff. This was just kind of a conversation, and I thought it was good. So shout out to Brian Custer as well and his podcast. Let me know what you guys think of Errol Spence. I think he's going to be a dangerous man. He says he feels 100%, and he's grateful, and he's had time to reflect. So let me know what you guys think is next for him. Who will he fight? He also has said recently that he don't want no tune-ups. Now, holla at them links in the description box: Patreon, YouTube channel members, ESPN Plus, or the bundle. Holla at that. Let me know how I did in this video and what you think for Errol Spence. What does his future hold? Check out the podcast and let me know what you guys think. We working. So if you enjoyed this video and want more content like this on the channel, you can show your appreciation by going to the PayPal donate button or the YouTube support button, and you can donate any amount that you feel is equivalent to the value of this video. Much more to come. Thank you guys for your support. Boxingego. the future of boxing.